Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today I'm going to make an ice-dyed colander spiral. To begin, I have the shirt turned inside out and I have the front of the shirt facing the table. So the part that you're seeing is the back of the shirt facing up. Whenever I do a spiral, I always have one side of the shirt that is prettier where the folds are nicer and cleaner than the other, and that's usually the side of the shirt that's facing the table. So I like to put the front of the shirt facing the table so that that side of the shirt has the best folds. To begin, I'm using a washable marker and making a mark on the shirt where I'd like for the center of the spiral to be. I normally like to start my spirals just a little bit below the armpit of the shirt. I'm using a pair of locking tweezers, attaching them to that mark that I made on the shirt, and then I'm placing a microwavable splatter guard over the top of the tweezers. My splatter guard has a hole in it, and I'm placing the top of the splatter guard against the shirt. That flat side of the splatter guard is going to help to keep the folds of the spiral a little bit more uniform in size and clean looking as I spiral the shirt. As I turn the tweezers with one hand, I'm using my other hand to make more folds and straighten the folds in the shirt. So with one of my last colander spirals, I tried using the tape method to hold the folds in place. And I kind of struggled with the tape a little bit, but I had some suggestions from you guys in how to make it a little bit easier. The suggestions were to use a clip to start the tape and then to use painter's tape. Well, I forgot to get some painter's tape at the store, but I looked around the garage and I found a little bit. It's a little wider than I really wanted to use, but I'm going to give it a try. So I'm using a little clip, which I purchased from the Dollar Tree dollar store. It's a little metal clip, and I'm using some painter's tape. I'm going to clip one end of the painter's tape onto one of the little pieces of fabric sticking out on my spiral, and then just kind of wind it around the edge of the shirt. So far, the clip is working great. Okay, so I think that worked out much better than using just the masking tape that I was using. I'm going to have to get a roll of tape that's maybe a little bit thinner and see how that works. Now I'm going to take a colander, which I purchased from the Dollar Tree dollar store, and place that on top of the shirt because I'm actually going to flip this over so that I can apply dye to the front side of the shirt. Even though the tape worked better, it's still not sturdy enough that I'm comfortable with just picking this shirt up. So I'm going to slide the shirt off the edge of the table and onto a metal shelf. Then I'm going to place another metal shelf on top and flip the shirt over that way. That's going to put the front of the shirt on top where I can apply the dye to the front. Then I've placed the metal shelf down inside of a plastic tub or tote to catch the runoff. Using a washable marker, I'm going to divide my spiral into 4 sections, taking each one of the lines down through the center of the spiral. I've only chosen 3 colors for this spiral, but I'm going to use one of the colors in 2 of the sections. I left the tape around the spiral until I got the shirt where I wanted it, and now I'm going to take the tape off. I want to allow the dye to flow down all of these folds, and I want to open it up a little bit so that the dye has some extra space to flow. Now in 2 of the sections, I'm going to place Dharma's new ice dye color, Alchemist. And I'm going to apply the dye in 2 of the sections across from each other. On one of the other colander spirals that I didn't have quite as much dye as I wanted on the shirt. So I'm actually going to kind of fill in these sections pretty solid with dye. Just take it to where the colander starts to flow or curve down. So I'm not going to apply dye all the way down the spiral. Then in the next two sections across from each other, I'm going to place Plum from Dharma and Imperial Purple from Dharma. So by adding quite a bit of dye into the center part of the spiral, what I'm hoping to happen is I'm hoping that my spiral is pretty solid right in the middle, and then it kind of fades out into maybe some color splits or just a little bit more dye flow out toward the edges of the spiral. I keep messing with these colander spirals because I'm trying to find that perfect spot right between dye flow and spiral definition. I want to have a little bit of both on my colander spirals. Now I'm going to add a little bit of additional dry soda ash over the top of my dye. And then I'm going to use another colander like the one that the shirt is on, place some ice down inside of that colander, and place the colander on top of the shirt. For good measure, I went ahead and added a little bit of additional dry soda ash over the top of the ice. Then I placed this whole setup aside and I allowed the ice to melt. After the ice melted, I came back and checked the shirt, and the dye was moving pretty well down through the shirt. But when I took the colander off, I noticed I had quite a bit of undissolved dye left on top. So I went ahead and added the colander back to the top of the shirt, placed a little bit more ice inside of the colander, and allowed that second batch of ice to melt. Once the second batch of ice melted, most of the dye on top of the spiral portion was already melted. The dye was out to the edges of the shirt. So I took the metal shelf with the shirt on top, placed it down inside of a taller-sided tote, placed the lid on top, and left the shirt to process. I allowed the shirt to process for about 48 hours before I began rinsing it. To rinse the shirt, I took it to my utility sink and I began rinsing it in cold water to rinse out the soda ash. You can see there's still just a very little bit of undissolved dye left sitting on top of the spiral. After rinsing in cold, I took the shirt off of the colander and warmed the water up to hot and continued rinsing in hot water to rinse out the excess dye that didn't bond with the fabric. I don't like rinsing for a long time, so instead I prefer to soak the shirt to get out the excess dye. And to do that, I placed some really hot water in my utility sink, added some Blue Dawn dish soap to the water, placed the shirt inside, and just allowed it to soak. When the water cooled off, I changed it out and I continued that soaking process until my water was remaining almost clear. Then I put the shirt along with some Dharma's professional textile detergent into my washing machine and I washed it using a hot water cycle. Okay, so I've washed, dried, and ironed the shirt, and let's see what this one looks like. Okay, so what do you guys think? I think this one is really pretty. I like the colors together. The Imperial Purple is the dark purple spiral part that you see. The Plum is the one that's directly across from the Imperial Purple. That is that more magenta-ish type color. And then the Alchemist is a little bit less intense than the other two colors. It's in between those colors. And honestly, I think the effects of the Alchemist show up the best at the edges of the shirt, kind of up toward the top, flowing toward one of the shoulders of the shirt where you see the turquoisey seafoam type colors. That's coming from the Alchemist, and I think that is really pretty. Also, where you see the blue, I believe that's coming from the Alchemist. So I love the dye flow at the edges of this shirt. And just like I predicted, the spiral portion is pretty solid. The dye is pretty solid in that area. And then the dye flow is really cool right around the outside edges. So overall, I'm really pleased with this shirt. I like the fact that I have as much color as I do on the shirt. I like the way the dye flowed on the folds of the spiral, and I have some of those darker lines in my spiral. And I love the cool dye flow as it just kind of wisps away at the edges of the shirt. I think that's a really cool effect. You know, it's just pretty much a gravity dye in spiral form, which you know how much I love gravity dyes. So I really like the shirt, but what do you guys think? Please drop me some comments down below and let me know. And if you've enjoyed the video, I sure would appreciate it if you would like it and if you'd subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you'll hit the bell, you'll receive a notification whenever I upload a new video. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.